Okay. Gonna minimize that. Alright, so we should be live as of now. I think there should be a way for me to just see my live stream chat feed, because that delay is going to really drive me up a wall. Maybe not. There we go. I'll just pop out the chat here. Neat. There we go. Now I don't have to see my own delay video. I can just go over here and see what I'm saying. Good deal. So as you can tell, things are a little bit different. I do have a second camera here. This is just for the close-up shot, and right over here, my arm should be disappearing for you. If it's not, let me know. But just diving into what we're doing today, we're going to start. We're going to start with this. We're going to start with the dragon. Now this is a model that I've had on my to-do shelf for a while, and last week we did something where we taped up the base here, and the reason we did that is because we're going to add a little bit of this AK Interactive still water into it. And here is the dragon in question. Gotta get used to showing things here. It is a dwarf for a Fire Slayer's army. It's a really cool faction in the Warhammer Age of Sigmar tabletop war game, but this is the model, and he's going to go right in here, just like so. And there's going to be a few steps that we're going to need to take before he actually gets into his final resting place here. So we're going to set him off to the side for now. And here are the little bits and bobs that I took some time and I painted up over the last couple of days just to save some time here so we can move on to some other stuff. We have a little axe here, just some chain. This obviously I didn't paint, but it's on there. And then this, just a little pile of weapons here. And the reason I used a little pile of weapons was to hide that very noticeable crack where I used cork for this rock, just because it looks a little bit like stone. I just want to hide that little crack right there because it's pretty noticeable, and that'll fit right over there. So we're going to super glue these down, and then from there we will proceed with adding our still water effect. We're going to super glue these down, and then we're going to actually drive a pin through his foot here so we can mount him in there properly without having to glue him all over the place. So we'll add a little pin in there for a mount that'll stick into the cork, and then we'll glue him down as well, but we'll get started with this first. The only thing I realized I did forget was I wanted to add some of the same rust effect that we have here on his metal onto this. So we're going to grab our painting stuff real quick and jump into that first. Oh, yes, almost forgot this little thingy. But this, however, might not go in today. Actually, I think I can get to the spot where I wanted it. I wanted it placed, so if the axe is going in this area, I wanted this placed either right here or up in the front. I believe it was right in here because there's a little hole that it looks like I might have made for this. I'm not going to dig another hole by mistake. So let's go ahead and we'll get this thing finished painted up. And this doesn't need to be on its blue tack mount anymore. So I get that out of there. So that's the first project. The other project is something that we did last week that I wasn't really happy with the way that it came out, and that was this monk. From the Bushido line, it's Umi from the Yao something, I don't know. I forget the name of the actual faction, I'm not going to look it up right now. But we were really, really happy with how it turned out model-wise, but then when we went to the base, this grain here, that looks really, really big and chunky. It was all over the base and stuff, which I like bases that don't have rims It's just a personal preference, and I think I said it a couple times last week, but this is just a model for myself, so I don't really mind. So I was going to add this stuff all around, but it kind of looked like birdseed. So over the last couple days, I popped it out of that little slot that we filled up, and I just have him ready to go on a new base. So we're going to rebase this model today, and he's going to go on actually a little bit of a bigger base as well. So here's the old one, and then there's the big one. So we're going to do that as well. I have a really cool idea with what we're going to do with it. So for now, I'm just going to chuck this in the bin. And take the little project box there and get that out of there. So let's get this axe taken care of. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this little dry brush. This is going to be real quick and easy. I'm going to use this dry brush and some of the Citadel dry paint Riza Rust. And get a paper towel here. I don't have to mess with the wet palette or anything for this. We will be getting that out here in a bit, like with our normal painting stuff, but the cool thing about dry paint is we're just gonna go for it. And you can even see, I really like this razor brush so much that I actually have a specific dry brush that I like to use only this really bright orange for. So we're just gonna get a little bit of that paint on there. And then from there, we're just gonna smush it down. To the point where we barely have, that might have been a little bit too much. We just want to get it worked into the bristles without all coming off. There we go, so like that. You can see that right there, and you can see it on my finger. As we flick our brush back and forth, it's going to get a little bit orange. Well, that really comes up on the camera there. But yeah, for that, we're just going to grab this, and we're just going to start adding it in here. And yeah, we could really crank this up to 11 and isolate parts and stuff for this, but I really like that. And there's a little axe. So that was really quick and easy. I don't know why I forgot to do that. But that's now done. So we're going to put that away. And we're going to start gluing these things down into the base. Grab the super glue here. Just Loctite Super Gel. I want this to dry fast so we can actually do this tonight. So we're going to start with just getting everything placed in here. I don't think I remember the last time I had it all in. I may have put that tape on a little bit early, but we'll be able to work around that. So this hook's there. Just like this. We'll add a dot of super glue onto these chains just to keep them secured in place. And it's going to go all the way over to here, where it hooks on. Oh, that's right, this is the more secure side. There we go. Kind of looks pretty good. I think I wanted to get that loop on here slightly differently though. Yeah, more so like that, yeah. There we go. Just right in between that groove. Nice, okay. So that's gonna go on there like that. So we're gonna take it off gently. Yeah, maybe not so gently. Oh, one moment. There was a little bit of miscommunication as to when I was gonna do the stream, and I have somebody reaching out to me about it. I do apologize. Yeah, and just for anybody else that is curious, I will be doing this every Tuesdays for just my general hobby projects, things like this. Whether it be a commission or just kind of stuff I'm working on for myself. And then Fridays, I have a special planned. It's going to be my Friday night stream. It's going to be a special project that I'm going to be working on for probably a long while. Alright, cool. That's on there. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I want to get some of these projects wrapped up from last week so we can kind of start fresh. So that's locked in there. That hold should be fine. And then this one over here, I think we're going to add a little drop right here on top. Just a little bit of super glue. And we're actually going to use the tweezers for this because I got shaky hands tonight for some reason. All right, there we go. Cool. Kind of make sure we have some slack in there. I believe his foot needs to go in there too. So yeah. Boom. There we go. There we go. Okay. So now we got the chain in there. Now it's going to be a little bit more secure once we get the water in there. So I'm not too concerned about that holding the chain there forever. Again, it's this. I've never actually used super glue to attach metal to painted. What would that be? Painted plastic. I'm sure it's fine. But next we got this, and the only thing I did to this, for those of you that were on last week but not tonight, or that weren't here last week, just hit it with a silver, a gray, brought out some of the detail with a little bit of dry brushing, and then I picked out a couple of the sections here, like this gauntlet and the shield and some of the swords, and I just hit them with a couple of washes. You really can go absolutely all out crazy with like giant piles of armor like this, but I did not on this one. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna glue this on. Our goal here is to cover up as much of that gap as possible, that little line, without making it super obvious that it's just in there for a specific reason. So we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna add a little bit. I'm almost at the end of my tube of super glue here. There we go. So that's probably way too much, but just like so. And boom. That is now ruh-roh. It appears that it's a little bit more concave than I originally thought. My bad. So we'll try this again. Do a little bit of a larger dot here. And boom. There we go. That's more like it. All right, now you stay. That might come off. Once I get this all poured, I might circle back to that piece because it's not wanting to stay in place. And I can't really mess with it too much because I want to be able to blend it into the rocks there. But we'll be able to do that once we get everything else done. Next is the axe here. We're just going to get it placed in here, like so. And make sure that it's not interfering with where we want our feet to go. Oh, and it is 100% interfering with right where we want that foot to go. Oh, actually. Oh yeah, there we go. It's right in this way. Yeah, basing can be a little bit finicky, especially when you're trying to do a little bit more, like where you want to place everything. So actually I think I want this to go just like that. Yeah. Okay. There we go. And then I'll actually hold this down into the chain down into the water. So we're just gonna add a little bit of super glue into this thing and on the ends here. We're gonna go ahead and glue this on. Should I think about this under the chain? Yeah, like that. There we go. I don't know if I have a good contact point underneath there. I do not. And this is a good example of where we could pin something, but we're just gonna get through this. Happy little accidents and all that. All right, cool. All right, there we go. Now, cool thing about super glue is it eats through a lot of strange materials that you might not think of. So this rock that we have right in there, that one right there, is actually a plaster casted rock that I made with a mold. Hopefully next week or the week after, I'll work on some of those actually here live on stream because I need them for my Friday thing. In the future, I'll need them for a big board that I'm doing for all these guys. but you can't put something like super glue onto plaster. It just absolutely, poke my eye out, it absolutely will just eat right through it. When I say eat right through it, it just dissolves it like hot water on ice almost. So now we have all of our pieces there. I'm gonna give this like a couple minutes to dry, I think. But actually, these should all be set. And this, I'm gonna hold off on finishing this because I think actually I wanted this out in front. And I'm looking at it now, and that's definitely gonna need to be blended in a little bit better because you can see that gap. Did that whole thing just come up? No, there's the chain. You can see that gap right there. That doesn't really look. You can see that gap right there. I gotta keep looking at that camera. This whole camera right here is a little bit odd for me. It's coming up a little bit, and what I'm gonna do with that is I'm just gonna take a little bit of this talus basalt stone, and I'll just kind of sprinkle it on there and maybe along some of these edges. I went a little conservative with that when I was using it because I didn't really want to go crazy with it. But this project's been going on for a little bit longer than I would have normally liked, so we're gonna move on from that now. Okay, so that's there. While we let that super glue dry, and I put this back into this guy's work in project bucket, we're gonna work on getting him a good way to mount into his place here. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna decide finally, once and for all, where we want his feet to go. We do that just kind of, you know, same way you do with anything else. You just kind of mess with it until you find a placement that you like. And I think I'm kind of okay with that. And then we're gonna line up, we're gonna drill a small hole in his foot here. And we're also gonna drill a corresponding hole right there. I'm just making a little pilot so I remember where it goes. Right, yeah, so just like that. That's not good. We'll fix that in a second here. That X might just not be part of this project at this point, I'm gonna be honest. I haven't found a good spot for it, and it keeps giving me issues. I think originally I wasn't going to do it mounted up like this. Yeah. Okay, cool, good deal. All right, so now we're gonna just go ahead and pin him. So right here, we're just gonna add a little hole. Actually, yeah, we're gonna make an executive decision now. I don't think this axe is going in there. It's gonna be maybe just a little bit too busy. We might circle back to it. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put a couple of pilot holes and little pilot marks here, and I'm gonna actually be drilling into his feet. So we're gonna do one right here. And this is called pinning. For those of you that aren't super familiar with modeling, this is where you take usually like a paper clip or just a small piece of metal, and you're going to pin it in there rather than just relying on glue to hold everything together all of the time. Glue into a little bit of hope. Okay. So there's that. I just got my pilot holes there. I'll get out my drill here. Okay. And here's my drill. Just a tiny little hand drill. The idea of this drill is that you can put your hand back here, like this, and then just kind of make your hole. I'm just going to press this up again, up against this, and we're just going to make our tiny drills. It won't take a lot to get through this. There we go. And now we have that tiny little hole there where we're going to put our paperclip in. Melt it in place with fire. Now that is actually Big Galget, that is actually something that a lot of people do. They will heat up a piece of paper clip or something. Now, for hot pinning, I think that's actually, I might have just made up that term, but when you heat that up like that and press it in there, it's usually when you don't have a good place to put a pin, like I do here on these big flat areas of the feet. And since I have a good spot, I'm not going to bother with that. And it's also something you do usually before you paint the model. But I have done that before. Actually, I have a lighter right in that drawer right there for exactly that purpose, just heating things up and jabbing them into place. We might do that when we do the cork here. All right, so I have those pins. I think I might actually have some pins already. When I say pins, it's nothing fancy. It's just bits of paper clip. Yeah, it's just bits of paper clip. Now I used these pins when I was painting, so they're a little bit long. Obviously, we're not going to have it going all the way up there for him, but we want about that much sticking out of the foot so it can go down into the cork, which is about that deep. So we're going to grab our handy dandy wire cutters. Now the first thing that a lot of people would do, and a lot of people would think to do, is to grab your hobby sprue cutters. Don't do that. These are not designed to cut metal. They're not designed for that in any way, shape, or form, and you will break them and they will hit you right below the eye and you will bleed a little bit and be afraid. So don't do that. We're going to be safe. And to be clear, these aren't protective goggles in any way, shape, or form. I just realized I wasn't wearing my glasses at a certain point. Okay, cool. So we're just going to grab a little bit longer than what we need. And boom. There's our pen. Ta-da! Now I have this tiny little pen. And we'll make it, I don't need these other little bits. Why is this one green? I think this one might have been a Christmas ornament thing. Alrighty, and here's our second one. We might lose one or both of those inside the foot here. So I'm actually going to leave that spare bit out. Alrighty. So this pin, it's gonna go into the foot here, and I'm just checking right now the size of the hole, make sure that we aren't too big, too small. No, that's gonna fit in there quite nicely. Although what we can do, because it's going to be a little bit loose in there, we might do this a little bit differently. We might, because that model is hollow on the inside. I think I'm going to do something slightly different here. I wish I hadn't just thrown those away. Okay. We're going to work smarter and not harder. Because my first thought is that, cool, I will just glue it into place, but then when I go to jab it into the cork here, who knows what's going to happen. So what we're going to do is we're actually just going to put this in there until it's nice and snug and secure. And then we're going to glue it in there and we're going to cut the excess off the bottom. So we might need an even longer one. Yeah. So when I said like that he's hollow inside, you can see that all that we just got. This one shouldn't need to be as long though. This should probably do fine. So you can see here, that's still too long. Okay, that's fine. I guess we could also just bend this. There we go. That's actually what we're gonna do here. Just bending our paper clip, just a little bit. And there we go. That might have been a little bit too much of a bend. We're just gonna work him in there. As you might tell, I normally don't do projects that are precarious enough to require pinning. Normally everything that I want to do, I can do very easily with just a little bit of glue, which is fine. You know, that's what we're here to do. We're here to learn, chat, and hang out. I might just stop being lazy. I'm gonna go get another paper clip. I'll be right back. There we go. Get some music on here. I'm not going to put any music on my stream just because everyone likes to listen to their own stuff. I don't want you to have to listen to my music. But this is great too. It cuts out any excess noise that's going on with like my neighbors or my in the house here. There we go. Perfect. So now we can see it's in there, and I'm just going to cut off just a little bit. So now here we go. We're going to cut this. Immediately forgot where I'm supposed to cut, my bad. Okay, yeah, right there. There we go. Boom. Nice. And there we go. We have our pin. And we're going to secure that in place with just a little bit of super glue again. By extending our pin all the way into the hollow of our miniature like that, we don't have to worry about the pin coming loose or any of that nonsense. And actually, I think I'm just going to use this end. Yeah. Nice. And we're just going to clean that up. I like to clean up things with the cap of the super glue. All right, now let's do this other one. I was trying to be frugal with my paper clips. I was trying to be lazy, not stand up and go get these. Go get this one. Okay. Here we go. And here's this one. Right like that. Just as far as up as we need it to go. Neat. I used to have a Sharpie right here for marking things like this, but I believe it wandered off when I was assembling some furniture. And that's definitely not going to do it. Okay, so we're just going to mark it with our finger. We want it to be about that thick. So we're going to pull that out. Grab our clippers here. That might have been a little bit short, but we'll see. It doesn't need to be super long. We're not trying to articulate a limb or anything here. We're just trying to secure this model in place on cork. Yeah, that's perfect. Look at that. Look at that. I love it when shit lines up. All right, cool. Put that in the paperclip box. And over here on my shelf, stuff that needs to get put back at the end of the night. All right. There we go. What's cool about using cork as our basing material is when we go to put this on here, we should just be able to poke it right into the cork here. We'll see. Alrighty. And there we go. Trying not to get super glue all over. I'm just gonna, there we go. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so now we got our pins in our feet here. And that should really keep him secure on there. I think that one might be a little bit long. Looking at it. No, it's perfect. All right, cool. So now we've got his feet in place. And I might add something like this afterwards, but for now, we're actually going to nix the axe. He's going to go back in my bits box. I liked the idea of the axe. I think that might just be a little bit too big. A little big and flashy. And it just doesn't really seem to fit into the vibe here. Okay, so Next, we are going to mount him onto this. I'm going to move this over a little bit. And then let's get a little bit more light. Ooh, not like that. How about like that? There we go. We are going to, we're going to mount him onto here, trying to hit, I think we put our palette hole right there, and we didn't put one over there, but right there. With this. So what we're going to do here when we mount this model is we're just going to kind of, I'm going to use my other tube of super glue, so I'm not squeezing really hard. Yeah, this is a much newer one. We're just going to add some super glue to the feet here and the pins and just kind of stick them down. So real nice and easy. There we go. Gotta get in the habit of doing these things where y'all can see it. And we're trying not to get it on the front edge of this foot because that's going to be right there on that rock that we were talking about earlier that we really can't add super glue to. But so we're going to line up that back foot where we want it to be. Same with that front foot. We're just going to kind of press them down into place. Oops. Oops, oops, oops. Okay. So now he's in there. And his feet are a little bit elevated off the ground, but I'm not really stressed about that. Because what we're going to do is after we get him his water in there and everything, we're going to go back and we're going to touch up the entirety of this top section. Right now our goal is just to secure him in place so he isn't going to shift around while our water effect dries. So now that we've got him on there, once we get that other section in, we can add something here, because right now, if you can see, if I can get a good angle here, you can see there's actually a gap down there, which is actually perfect. I was hoping that I was going to be able to get these pins in such a way that I could get a little bit of a gap and still get it in there, which I did. And I'm going to add a little bit more rubble and stuff as we blend in some of the rest of the space here. But he is in there now. He's mostly secured on this back mounted foot. So yeah, I'm actually really happy with the way this turned out so far. And now we're just going to go ahead and we're going to add our water in here. It's going to be our still water with AK Interactives. What's cool about this is a self-leveling water and all of that. So I don't want to drip any of this on the model, so I might take this out of your guys' line of sight here. There we go. So we're just going to kind of drip this all over. Keyword on drip because it is very gel-like. I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a second. I'm just going to kind of add this. And there we go. If I can get you guys in here to see this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to because I'm trying to get the camera to focus on something that's literally a clear water-like solution. I don't think that's going to happen, but you'll see here in a minute. Yeah. So we're going to add this water in here. There we go. Tilt this down a little bit. Don't want to try and mess around with this too much. You can start to see the water line there raise up around him. And when this stuff dries, what I love about this is you don't have to mess around with tinting your water. This is the still water, and it's actually designed just to dry in such a way that it looks like actual water. So I love this stuff. I'll move him to a better spot here in a second. So with our nice undercoat that we added, you can see that when this dries, this is actually that product in there. It gets that nice foggy look that real water gets when it dries. So that's actually going to take, given the amount that I put in there, it's going to take a couple of days to get fully cured, or a number of hours. It doesn't actually say on here if I remember. Yeah, but I know it takes a while before it stops moving around, and then it takes a while after that to get to a point where you can stop touching it and seeing your fingerprint trying to test if it's level. So what I like to do is I like to get one of these. This is a Sterilite container, because I work obviously in a basement, so my setup is very prone to dust and such. There we go. My setup is very prone to dust, so I like to put things that need to dry, that have a tendency to get shit in them. I like to put them in these containers here. So I'm going to very carefully, and it looks like we did a good job of sealing this up because we don't have any leaks yet. But trust me, that thing will find them. And it's going to shrink, and it's going to warp around a little bit. This is the first time I've used this stuff on this kind of particular base. So I'm going to almost just ripped this off the table. We're going to go very carefully, place it down. Let's go over here. Alrighty, well that's done and dusted. Way to go, everybody. I'm gonna actually adjust this camera a little bit. Sorry, kind of fell down a bit. There we go, now you can actually see my face. Which I assume is why you're here, is just to look at me. All right, so the next thing we were gonna work on is this monk. This monk with this little elemental energy thing going on. So I loved the idea of this blue crystalline base and all of that, but I really wasn't happy with the base that we chose, and we're gonna fix that today. So I have these, which are very, very pretty rocks of a couple of different colors, and I have some other basing materials that we're gonna dig into. Alrighty. So what we're going to be using here is we're going to be using, oh man, just put that thing right on there. Okay, so we're going to put him over to the side for now. We don't need him just yet. We're going to be using the Vallejo Thick Mud Acrylic. Phenomenal texture base. It's just going to be going on a normal base. I don't even know what size of base this is. I know that at some point I put magnets on the back, so it's probably for one of my armies, but I ended up just never building the unit. Happens a lot. But we're going to go ahead and add this thick mud on there. And then we're going to use some battlefield rocks to fill in the gaps that we don't have these beautiful rocks on. And then we're also going to add a couple of these woodland scenics, not woodland scenics, sorry, Army Painter mountain tufts, because we're going for that whole mountaintop vibe. So we're going to start with the texture paste. So just like last week when I talked about this, texture paste, definitely use a brush that's on the last edge of its life and use a separate water cup because it's not ideal. You don't want this kind of stuff getting in your normal brushes. It will just destroy them. Gets all into the ferrule. But what's cool about this thick mud stuff is it kind of works like a cement. We put it on, it'll get very, very tough, and it'll add a very nice solid base. And we're actually going to use that to glue him down. Oh, we might super glue him first. Let's see, where do we want him? So I want him, I'm thinking right in the middle here, like some of the crystals all around him, or up in the front, a little bit more towards the back here. So he'll have all the crystals in front of him. I think would be pretty neat. Like that. Yeah, we're gonna do that. So we'll go ahead and glue him in place. A lot more. I grabbed my new bottle by mistake there. Okay. Alrighty. So there we go. This doesn't need to be really great. We're going to be covering the whole thing in a texture paste. And I'm going to actually get up against the sides of this to kind of blend it in as well. Now this is a metal pewter model, so I don't know if super glue is really going to hold it in place very well, but between that and the Vallejo thick mud, we should be fine. So I'm just going to hold this here for a slight minute and see if that works. I tend to avoid these metal pewter models, but these Bushido sculpts were just way too cool to pass up. Oh, actually, the reason it was slipping away from me is it was being attracted by the magnet here on the bottom, maybe, because it kept slipping over and now it's not moving at all. That's pretty cool. All right, cool. So we got him on there now. Neat, and we're gonna add some of this stuff on there. And it just kind of looks like mud. I think, yeah, this is thick mud. So we're gonna have our brush a little bit wet. We're gonna grab a model holder here, just to give us something to hold on to that isn't our base rim. I think this is the right size. It's just barely not the right size. I don't like stretching out the smaller ones either all the way, so what I like to do is I get some 3M tape. And this stuff is great. It's just like a couple of bucks for this whole spool, and you can just use it willy-nilly as much as you want. What we're going to do with this is we're just going to stick it to here, like that, and then peel this, get the other side out here, throw away the garbage, there we go, and stick the model right on there like that. And we're just going to press it down. Perfect. I'm going to wait for that, just to give it just a minute to set. We're going to take a sip of tea. All right, no time for slackers. Back to it. All right, so the texture paste, I'm going to go ahead and grab it out and just splosh it on there. Just get it all up in there, kind of smush it into place with your brush. Not trying to get a smooth coat, obviously, because mud isn't really a smooth thing. We're just going for the texture and the color here. If you get a little super glue on your brush, pretty sure that just ruined my brush, but it's fine. I'll be honest, this basing material brush has been my basing material brush for over a year, and I think it's about time. It was a workhorse. It got through a lot of really big projects, even a couple of like entire scene boards, where I did the same exact technique over like a couple of feet of material. And if we get some on the edge, normally I would say at the end we're going to paint over, but since this is a texture paste, it'll add a really not so ideal texture to our base itself. So we're going to try and wipe that off if we notice it. Okay. Alrighty, and then we're going to try and get some all up on the edge of our rocks there as well. Trying to get focus in here, camera. Yeah. So we're gonna try and get it all up on the rocks as well. just to kind of blend everything in together. And you can see now it's really starting to come together. We have all of our mud down, and that's just, again, that's just a little foundation. So that's going to take just a few minutes to dry. If you put this stuff on a little bit thicker, it can take hours and hours or a day or so to dry. So while we wait for that to dry, we're going to move on to our next thing. I'm just going to set that off to the side along with these. And we're going to spill water. Okay. So I'll leave him over here where everyone can still see him. Go ahead and just, there we go. I like how I'm slowly shifting the light down so it's just that, and then I'm just like here in darkness with my hood. Next up, we're gonna work on our next project, which is going to be some more dwarf stuff, actually. So that dragon that we just finished wrapping up is actually part of a large commission that I am doing for somebody. Now I say commission because they offered to pay me for it, but I didn't actually accept any payment for two reasons. One, when I originally started working on this for them, I wasn't actually painting for money at the time. I had just been doing it a little bit casually on my own and was having fun with it, and I offered. And the second is, given that he was a veteran and I offered to do this to him for free, he kind of inspired me a little bit to start up Good Nuf Painting to paint, because he fell in the category of people that just weren't interested in painting. So I said, hey, I'll do this for you for free. And he was like, oh, wow, veteran discount. And I was like, no, nothing like that. But then it got me thinking about it. And then I was like, okay, well, I wonder if there's other people out there that, you know, might be veterans or something like that. And they don't have any interest in painting their models, or they can't. And then I started really I started to dig a lot. And I started to find a lot of people that for whatever reason, they couldn't paint their models. But they were really into these war games, and I was like, okay, well, hold up. We can fix that real quick. I'll offer a service that's really, really cheap. And yeah, the rest is whatever. But so this is set. That's kind of the inspiration to the beginning of everything, but it's also set very, very unfinished. Because once I started reaching out to people, I realized how busy I was going to be. And he was really cool about it. And then, you know, everything that happened in the world, I stopped seeing him at work. So I kind of forgot about it. But here we are. We're kind of wrapping up everything. These guys I painted a number of weeks ago, or a number of months ago actually at this point. They are fire slayers. Dwarf units for that faction. Work with me here. That's fine. They were a lot of fun. They had a lot of skin. I really enjoyed painting these fire slayers. All of the barely clothed dwarf bodies was a really fun and exciting experience for me. But yeah, lots of fun. But you see these bases? It's not going to do it. We're going to fix that. We're going to add some basic flock to these. Not doing anything crazy. Just going to add some basing material and maybe a few tufts of grass. Yeah. Alrighty. Okay. And the glue that we're going to use for our basing is this. This is a 1-to-1, as you can see from my 1:1 mixture of PVA glue all, which is just like your standard craft glue that children use, and water. And that's basically just to attach flocking materials to the base, which I don't think I actually got my flocking material. Oh, that's right, I didn't pick one out. I will be right back with the actual flock itself. Sorry, everybody. I had a flock picked out for this, and then I had a mild existential crisis when I actually picked it up, and I was like, no, that's going to be terrible. It's going to look awful. He's going to hate it. And I was like, nah. It took me a while to convince myself that this was actually what I wanted to use. Yeah, I like that. So just a little bit of burnt grass. That's what this is called. Blended turf, actually. So what we're going to do is we're going to try not to make a huge fucking mess is what we're going to try and do. Just right off the bat, I'm going to say that. And we're going to do bad at that. But we're going to try. So we're going to get some of this PVA glue. And we're going to scoot all these dwarves back. Get over there. Over there. And we're going to use this PVA glue and we're going to cover the base with the glue. And then we are going to put our dwarves. We're going to dunk them in this blended turf. I like to just dunk them right into the canister. I know you can sprinkle it on. I usually do that for bigger stuff, or if I'm doing bases that haven't already been assembled with a model on them. We're going to dunk them in there, and then we're just going to shake them off into this little bucket here. So you should be able to see most of the process here on this camera. And we're going to need a slightly smaller brush, and I think I'm going to use a combination of this one. Actually, just this one, I think. Yeah, we're just going to use that one. This is a glue brush. Okay. So we're going to take our glue here, and then I had a little, there we go. I'm just going to use one of the inkwells from this attachment, and we're just going to put this. We're going to drop our brush immediately. It's important that you get the bristles nice and blanket on the ground. There we go. Brush. With the brush wet again. Let's throw our brushes in here. Normally I would say don't leave your brushes in water, but given that these are brushes that are kind of already trashed, I'm not super concerned about it. And if you are, you can tell me off in the comments later on when this video goes live or is posted up. And there we go, we just got some glue. As you can see, it's very thin. Just literally just school glue mixed down with some water. And like a little bit of fluid. I think I added a drop or two of actual Liquitex Fluid in there, just because I was having some clumping issues. We're gonna grab a brush. We're gonna grab a dwarf. Let's start with the guy whose arm fell off at some point, which I know is painted, but I need to go find. So we'll start with old one arm here. And we're gonna go ahead and grab some of our glue and just start slapping it on there. Alrighty. The reason we need something like thin down PVA glue is because I used to just use straight PVA glue and I would just keep my brush very wet. But it was frustrating. So I actually mixed this up and put it in the bottle, and it's one of the best time savers I think I've ever had, was deciding just to make a batch of this stuff. It's so much faster just to be able to squeeze it out of a bottle, or like if you're making a diorama and you're covering a big area, just covering it all at once. But there we go. All right. Now we've got that all done. I'll grab this right here. And then I like to just, I just like to dunk them in there. Kind of shake them around a little bit. Okay, so that wasn't entirely unexpected, but we do have a little bit of exposed areas around the edge there, which I will fix at another date and time, probably when I go to clean up the bases and I seal the model, I seal the basing material entirely. I'll go back and do a second pass to catch that rim. But for the future ones here that we do, I'll just be a little bit more careful about getting the grass all the way out to the edges. Oh yeah, and then we're just gonna tap them off. Yeah, there we go. And there we go, one dwarf down. And then we do the other 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, more than 10 of them. Okay, we're gonna grab the bigger brush. Okay. And this isn't like the texture paste, so it's actually not that bad to try and get it off away from the edges, so we don't have to be quite as careful. But here we go. Just gonna go ahead and get all around his feet and whatnot. And normally basing is something that I would do before I glued a model down, especially ones like this. Ones like our monk friend there, it's great because they're just on a centralized platform. But this one, when we have like the multiple points of contact and we're trying to go in and around his legs here, plus he's not even wearing pants, so we don't want to get too intrusive. But I don't like to glue those guys down. But when I got this army, as with several of my commissions, it was already in a state of sub-assembly, or just, I think these were all just straight up assembled. He'd been playing with them as bare plastic for a number of years. And he only ever played Warhammer with his one buddy up in New Jersey a few times a year. So he'd had this army for a while, just in its current state. And I was like, let me help you out. So we did that. Alrighty. We're on to the next one. And this is what a lot of commission painting and just Warhammer and miniature painting in general is. It's doing the same thing over and over again. Trying to, if you're like me and you have really bad ADHD, you tend to want to vary. You tend to want to add a lot of variations on each model that you do, which is fun. But when you're doing something for someone else and they want that nice, consistent army look, it's really hard to reel yourself in and just kind of do the same thing on every single model. Here we go. Oh, I see now. It's wanting to pull away from the edges here. I believe, so you can see my glue line is slowly shrinking up even after I bring it all the way out to the edge here. I believe that's called the capillary effect. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's fine. Nothing a second pass won't fix later. Ta-da! And, oh, sorry, yeah, I didn't show you guys this one. There he is. And then that base, really cool, just wipe it away. You can just wipe all that excess away before it dries. And then we will seal it. And then after it is sealed, I can go back through. And we'll use a sealant, like a matte spray, like a matte varnish. We'll just use that to seal up the model. It won't affect the paint too much, the paint job. A lot of people talk about what kind of sealant to use, and they go back and forth about it a lot. And I'll be honest, I've done a lot of miniature painting, and the stuff that I do seal, which is only stuff that I paint for other people, I know I'm a monster. I've always just done with a matte varnish, and I've never done anything else, so I don't really have an opinion on, like, I think there's matte, gloss, and satin varnishes are the three most common that you see. And essentially, when you're talking about matte, gloss, and varnish, and satin varnishes, it's just the finish. So if you have a matte coat final spray, it's going to mute all of your colors, which is really, really cool, especially if you're going for something almost grim dark or grungy. But if you have like a high gloss, you're going to get really high sheen and really high light reflection, which is really, really cool, especially if you're a beginner painter. You're going to want to go for things that have a glossy finish as opposed to a matte finish. Because when you have a matte finish, you are 100% in charge of every little bit of object source lighting and making highlights and shadows. And for professional painters and people that really push themselves, you can see some amazing stuff that they do with these matte paints. But for beginner painters, high gloss stuff, well, if you're looking at something and the light's up here, and that's where you wanted the light to be when you painted the model, it's going to be right there, and it's going to actually reflect appropriately. But if you are in charge of all of that yourself, and you have these really matte muted colors, and then you add a matte varnish on top of it, and you haven't really given any thought or consideration to something like the inside folds of a cloak being a slightly darker shade of green than the outside cloaks, it's all just going to look flat. And you're not going to get any of those natural things, especially when you take pictures. So definitely something to think about if you're getting into painting miniatures. Just don't, you're going to see something like, you're going to see like scale 75 paints and people talking about how wonderful some of these things are. But those aren't beginner tools. Those are really more advanced tools. I think a good example would be, I can't really think of another hobby off the top of my head because right now I'm just doing this and that's the only thing I have in my head. But those beginner tools are beginner tools for a reason. It's not always just because that they're cheaper and not as good of a quality. Sometimes it's because it's better and easier for beginners to use those kinds of tools. Things like army painters. These are a phenomenal paint that professionals use all the time. Now, would you say that they're a beginner paint? Yes, they are. But they're also the ones that people will use their entire life and their entire career. Whereas something like Scale 75, or I can't think of another one off the top of my head of the really fancy paint brands. Those are for people that are really pushing the more artistic side of things. Like, if you gave me a set of Scale 75 paints, I would probably just struggle to use them because I'm not as well versed in things like color and lighting and the more artistic side of things. Whereas somebody that maybe came from more of an art world or a design world would be like, I wish I had a very muted yellow so I could use, and so on and so forth. So when you see these really expensive and fancy products, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be better, and it's something that you need to always try and get yourself up to a point in using. It's so important to just know where you're at and what you're doing and how well you're using the tools and products that you have. Oh man, it's time for satie. Another phenomenal example, and I just glanced over. Again, I think I raved about these a little bit last week. But Citadel contrast paints. Are these a beginner tool? Yes, they're 100% a beginner tool. That is because they are designed for beginners. They are designed so that you, after you prime your miniature, you slap this on and maybe you do something else. I forget the system that Games Workshop came out with. But you slap this on, you do one other thing, and then you put your base on, and then boom, you are done and you are playing the Warhammer game. So it is a beginner tool. But as you can tell from things that I did with something like this, they don't always have to be used for beginning techniques, and you can really evolve your painting while using these things without saying, well, I've outgrown these and chuck them in the bin. There's no real point to that. So I forget what got me on this rant. I think it was matte varnish spray, but we're gonna go back to painting our dwarves here because my rant is now over. But the same thing also applies to things like basing. These models, I could spend another dozen hours doing their base, making sure each one had a beautifully curated, unique base. And there's many times that I do, especially if I'm doing something for someone else and I get inspired. Good example is this. This is a base for a model that I made, and it ended up being the wrong size, which was a mistake on my part. So I ended up not using it. But this was a bamboo base that I made just for a random model that somebody had. And you can see there where the model and the fireplace, the fire was. I spent a long time on this. And it looks really, really beautiful, and I was really happy with it. Now, would I do that for every model in an entire army? Hell no. So rather than say, oh, well, I'll do one model at a time as I feel up to it, if you do something super basic like this, just kind of throw some flock down on there and say flock it, and and just kind of get it started. You'll see here in a minute how much better the half of this unit with just the simplest base material, just a little bit of grass. It's gonna really make these guys pop a lot more. Man, I got real sloppy with my brush here. It's fine. Let's wipe that away. There we go. Neat. All right, so here we have half of our dwarves that have bases done. And yes, the rims are different colors, and yes, I will fix that for any of you that are miniature painters or people that aren't. Yes, I will fix that. And then here's 5 that aren't. So looking at the 2 of them, they look a lot better, the ones on the left, and they don't look super basic. Come on down here. Let's go ahead and get a little bit closer here. They look a lot cleaner and a lot more like a cohesive unit as opposed to this pile of colors over here. And that's why you do bases, because it's all pretty and it's all fun at the end. Next, guy is up. And you look a little bit like my grandpa. Maybe like a turtle. I don't know. Oh, I pulled that up. It's gonna take a while to get used to doing this stuff, not just wherever. Not because I'm putting myself in an uncomfortable position while painting these like this in front of the camera, in front of this camera, but just because I'm so used to just like watching TV or something, so where I'm actually painting my model changes all the time. There we go. Neat. These have actually all been pretty clean. See, normally I end up filling one of these tubs with the basing material, but since these guys are smaller, they don't really need too much space. I don't need this smaller brush. I'm just gonna throw it in here. Alrighty. Oh, my Friday streams. Okay. So now I feel like most of the people that are going to be regular watchers are now in here. We're up to 4 people. Thank you all so very much. I have a big project planned. And my big project is really exciting. For those of you that are familiar with the game Dungeons and Dragons, which I think most of you are, you'll know that there are a lot of different creatures that you can fight in D&D. Everything from aboleths to zombies, from dragons to necromancers, it's all in there. You can fight whatever you want. And what I am doing is I am painting all of that. Every Friday, starting with the A's this week, we are, obvious to be very clear, I'm not doing a letter a week, but every week we will be painting, this guy's arms are a little bit too wide, some monsters out of the monster manual until we have painted all, I believe it is 435 entries. So that's going to be 435 miniatures that I just committed myself to painting on Fridays. Now that stream is going to start a little bit later because I do work my day job on Fridays. So every Friday starting between 10 and 10:30, I'm going to be hopping on and working on those. I'm just going to go in rough alphabetical order because surprisingly, it's not easy to get models of all of those creatures, all the little critters. Some of them have never actually even been printed by Wizards of the Coast, LLC. Some of them have never really had a miniature release that was designed for painting. So I have a 3D printer, and I will be 3D printing some of them. I originally was going to commit to 3D printing all of them, but then I realized that I would go insane trying to find STL files and do all of them. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be 3D printing some of them, but for the most part, there's a phenomenal line of models out called Nolzur's Marvelous Miniatures, and they partnered with Wizards of the Coast, or they're owned by Wizards, I forget which, and they partnered with some other company, but they produce a lot of the models that we're going to be painting. And then there's some other companies that I'm going to get suitable proxies or just that have created things, like I think like a giant ape. There's a giant ape that's created by Nolzur's or has been released by them, but there isn't a normal monkey. So I'm going to be, I downloaded an STL file and I'm actually going to be printing off that monkey on my 3D printing station over there tomorrow. But long story short, we're going to start the long journey together of live streaming every Friday, painting up every single monster in the monster manual. It's going to be a while. From my most aggressive estimate, so assuming that I am an absolute beast of a painter every single week and I come at it and I rip through it, we're looking at a project that I'm going to be doing every Friday for at least the next 1.5 to 2 years. Probably a lot longer, knowing me. For now, we're skipping over some of the larger entries. So you have your ancient dragons, which are huge monsters. They make our dragon that we were working on earlier look like a lizard. I'm skipping over those for now just because I want to do something special for those big things. And also we're going to be hitting the dragons up in their other sizes throughout. So I didn't want to, if you look at the A entries in the monster manual, which I think someone might be doing if they go back and they watch this, I'm not going to start off this whole giant project by painting all of the largest creatures in Dungeons and Dragons. That just seems like, I don't know, that seems like a little bit of a nightmare of a task. And if I split it up throughout the project, I'll really be able to take my time and make some really cool stuff. But I'm very excited for all of this. I started live streaming just because I wanted it just to be an extension of my YouTube channel, but now I'm actually finding this is kind of fun on its own, having just these other separate projects, because right now I'm working on a couple of other projects that I can't really share on the stream, because one, they might be for somebody, or two, in the future it might be a commission for somebody, and they might not want to share with like their playgroup or whatever it is that they're doing. For example, one of the things that I'm doing is for my D&D group, and I can't really live stream that in case they end up watching and then they see what we're working on. So I need to clean out this glue. So yeah, please, please, please tell your friends that I'm starting an insane task this Friday, starting between 10 and 10:30. Depending on how my day at work goes on those days, I expect that stream will be somewhere between 2.5 to 3 hours, depending on how much momentum I have, maybe as little as 2. We'll see how I feel, because I do work at my job. I work 4 10-hour shifts instead of your normal 5-8. So my schedule is a little bit all over the place, and those days that I do work are a little bit longer. Okay, so there we have this first base coat down on these dwarves. Let's get in here. So now we have a bunch of dwarves. Brah! Lots of fun doing all this army. I will pull out one of our future projects, and this is one that I'm probably going to work a lot more off camera than I am on camera when I go to put some of these basing materials back, because my desk is getting a little bit crowded for me. So we're going to go ahead and clean up these brushes a little bit. Again, you have to make sure that you put your brushes on the floor at least once a day, otherwise they'll get lazy. They won't think that you'll just throw them away. Okay. So I shall be right back, and we shall finish working on our monk friend here. Don't need that. Yeah. All right, we're back. Just cleaning up this dwarf army here, because I got a bunch of the pieces out, and I was looking for those guys. Alrighty. So we're going to go ahead. I'll scoot that out of the way a little bit, and we're going to just line these guys up over here. Now, in hindsight, probably would have been a little bit smarter if I had touched up all of these bases and made them all a uniform color before I based them, but I was really excited just to kind of make a significant step forward on them. So that's what we did. And you can see how much better they look now that they have bases. Awesome. Now for you, sir. Our texture paste is dry for the most part, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. It doesn't look like we got anything on the edge here around the rim. And we're going to start gluing on some of these rocks, some of these crystals. So we're just going to just dump them out. And we're going to find the good ones. So what I'm looking for here is I'm looking for really nice, cool looking ones. I don't really have anything else to go on besides that. But they're going to be on there like that. And there's going to be a bunch of them. I'm going to see how many I can fit. And I really like the blue ones. Not as big of a fan of the gray ones in here. But yeah, as you can see here, I like that much better. So that you can see the elemental earth that he's bending out of the ground doesn't seem super out of place. Whereas before it was just kind of, oh, is he standing on a rock? No, he is bending that earth. I liked that idea a lot better. So we're gonna grab some of these. You stay over there, sir. I'm kind of looking for like the jagged, crazy ones here, because we're gonna be gluing a lot of them on. Normally I just throw like 1 or 2 of these on, or I'll use them as like a little bit that I'm adding, so I don't normally go crazy, or like I'm looking for ones with like super flat bottoms, but now I'm just kind of looking for whatever. Ooh, that one's really crazy. And I think this is actually glass. So I have, by mistake, gone to like dig in this bucket before, come out with like little bits of glass and underneath my fingernails. So this is hobby glass from Hobby Lobby, I believe. So if you do get it and you really like the look of this, just be aware of that ahead of time. I wish somebody told me, but no one recommended the product to me. But I'm recommending it to you, so make sure that you're careful. All right. And I am just rambling as I sit here and pick through glass, but I think that's why you all are here. Okay, cool. So I got some picked out here. We're just gonna kind of move all of these over here. We'll kind of make a couple of different piles here, just so we have ones to look at as we go. We'll kind of make it do a little bit of a smiley face. And here we go. So these are really cool because we're just going to attach these with super glue. Super glue is like your best friend when you're working with models because it binds pretty much anything to anything. And we're going to grab some tweezers here too. It's just because I don't want super glue all over my fingers. It happens to me all the time, and inevitably I will get super glue all over my fingers tonight. But you like to lie to yourself a little bit in situations like this. And we're just going to go ahead. We're going to put a little bit of super glue on there. And then randomly place it in. There we go. It's on there. Ta-da! And now we're going to do that. We're just going to cover up a lot of the base. Just grabbing little pieces here and there. Trying to get them to fit together. So it's a little bit like a puzzle. There we go, I like that. I'm not trying to pack them in so tightly together that you can't see the ground, but I want it to look like this is a rocky area or like an elemental plane of some kind. I'm liking that base a lot better actually already. Oh yeah. Come here, buddy. Doop. And we're also going to add in a few of these. These are those tufts. cool about these? So these are static grass tufts. Oh no, my smiley face. And static grass tufts are really, really cool because what they are is static grass that's been electrically charged with a negative and a positive end so that it sticks straight up. It's really, really cool. And what they did here was they just put these static grass tufts, they created them like just by making a bunch of static grass in a large area and then cutting it up and sticking it onto these little stickies. So you don't have to mess around with a static grass applicator every single time you want to use this. Now this static grass tuft was really, really big. So I'm going to put it back. We're going to get a smaller one. I always get really excited to use the big ones, but I never need them. So we're going to grab one of these smaller ones. I'm going to show that right there. There we go. And now we're starting to come together. We've got some stuff going on. We'll grab some of these tiny ones. We'll kind of get it so, and we'll surround it. We'll put a rock right there and one right there. And it'll kind of look like the stuff's sticking out. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get one back in there, but I'm going to try. Well, it is in there. But I'm not happy about it, so it's coming up. Let's go right here instead. We're going to get a smaller rock. Actually, I kind of like that. The reason I chose the jungle swamp base material was because I wanted to allow some of it to kind of poke through and it not look horrendous. Let's go ahead and we're not going to go crazy on the static grass. I think that's actually enough. My tendency is to overdo it with stuff like that. So we're going to contain ourselves a little bit. Alrighty, and we're going to go back to finding some rocks and putting them on here. I like this one. This one's crazy, so we're going to use this one instead. Yeah, there we go. A small one. Look at that. Is that going to fit? No. We turn it around though. Boom. I like it. There we go. We're not trying to fill up the whole base, but trying to get a good covering, get a good view of what we're looking at here. I like this. I like these big flat ones too, as long as they're not so flat that they look like broken glass, which is what they are, but the whole point of doing models and such is that we're making things that aren't what they are look like something else. Something very small. Ta-da! Another one right here. One that's got a little bit more verticality to it. Yeah, there we go. That side? Yeah, that side. Whoa! And there we are. Now I'm glued to the rock. Like I said, it was inevitable. I was going to get super glue all over my fingers. It's fine. And I just realized that as I bumped this one, that it's not actually even glued down. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to peel this one off because it's clearly not attached very well. A little more super glue. And let's get you back in there, buddy. Yeah, again, cool thing about super glue as well, it'll kind of just make anything stay in place. Alrighty, grab a couple of small ones. We'll just place them along the back here. Let's put this right here. This tiny one right here. Yay! There we go. I need one more small little bit of rock. And now we have our elemental forces, earth bending, person. All done and dusted. There we go. It's a much better look for it. I am much happier with the way that this model looks now as opposed to the way it did at the end of last week's stream. Now we really have a much more cohesive look, and the base is fancy, which is great, but also it's contrasting the color a little bit better with the monk itself. So yeah, I am very, very happy with this right now. All right, so I'm gonna actually call this project done and dusted. I'm gonna take it off its base here. All these rocks just went on there, so I don't wanna peel them up by the rock. And this is just gonna go. So this isn't actually for anything. It's a little bit odd for me. Normally I do models and stuff like either for a game or for a commission or for a very specific purpose, but that one was just kind of, I wanted to paint it. So it's just gonna sit over there for a while and I'll be happy about it. Then we're gonna take all of our rocks here. We're gonna place them back into our little bucket. Being careful not to dig our nails into them, because this is glass. And we're going to get some on the ground. Or just on our chair. Okay. Let's do. We'll go right back to doing what we just did. We knocked some on the ground, and this time we won't. Confidence is key. You drop something or you mess up something because you're being lazy or like trying to do it too fast, immediately do it again. Otherwise, you won't ever try it a third time. All right, so that project is now done, and I didn't actually have anything else planned, but I have so many little things that I gotta do. So we're gonna do the next one. We're gonna bring out the airbrush for this one. Okay, so as I talked about my project, the Monster Painting Madness Fridays, I wanted to focus on the painting of the monsters. So what I'm going to do today is I am going to prime a couple of them, discussing some of the fundamentals that we worked on last week, that we spoke about last week with zenithal highlighting and such. So we're going to actually prime a couple of these models, even though I know for a fact some of these won't get painted for a few months. But what we're going to do is we're going to crack open all these boxes, and then we're going to get our our airbrush ready, and we're going to start priming these guys. Very excited. So before I just pull out and fill up my whole desk with just crap, we're going to open these one at a time here. I'm not keeping these. It kills me a little bit, but I'm not actually going to be keeping these boxes. I'm one of these people that I carefully peel it off the back, and then I slide this out, making sure that I can still hinge it. I don't have one, but yeah, no, these are just these are happening. And then all of these bases, so all these models come with these very thin bases. I'm going to throw them in here for now. I suspect, knowing myself, I will be just buying some generic bases that are a little bit better quality, just for my own sanity, because those really thin bases have a tendency to just be awful in every way, shape, and form. Okay. So here we go. Next one. Just putting all the empty boxes there next to me. And a lot of them have these clear bits. I usually try and not prime those because normally they're for translucent appearances, and I like to just keep them as it is. So I'm going to throw that in there. And where's my envelope box? There it is. Okay. Alrighty, so here are our models. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at, I don't actually need this one. Wait, is it this one? I don't need this one for now. We're going to look at them and see if there are any super glaring mold lines. And what mold lines are is it's a place in the model, I'll show you what I'm talking about in just a second, where you can see the injection molding process. So the way that these models are actually created is you have what's called an injection mold. Sorry. Which, you're familiar with the process of molding, is basically two halves of a mold that get closed up together, and the negative space is what your actual model is. So what you would have is, you'd have this guy, go over here, you'd have this guy and a top piece that's halfway down, and then another piece that's halfway down the other side, and they smush together, and everywhere where this model currently exists is just hollow. And then the shit gets, whatever it's being made out of, plastic, resin, metal, whatever it is, it gets injected into the mold and it fills out this space, which is really great. It's how you're able to get these really, really cool things. But what you do get when you do this process is this line right here. Right here. You see that line right there? That's actually not part of the model. That is where the two pieces, the two halves of the mold were pressed together. You can see it up here in his arm too. That's where the two halves of the model were all pressed together. The mold, sorry, mold rather. One day I'll be good at getting my camera to focus in on some of this stuff. Today's not that day though. But that little lip is just what we're gonna go through here, and if you were creating something absolutely insane, like a competition piece or a model that you really, really loved and cared about, you would be very, very meticulous with this. But what I'm doing is I'm just trying to go through here and get some of the really, really glaring ones out of the way here. And I like to do that with sanding sticks. An X-Acto knife. So what we're doing is just kind of scraping that line away. Doesn't take a lot. And just like that, it's not 100% gone in every space, but it's gone enough that if somebody sees it, they're looking for it. At least in my opinion. Yes, there are obviously really, really bad examples where it will be super obvious that you have a mold line that somebody didn't address or tried to address and didn't really do a good job of. But for the most part, just kind of eliminating 80 or 90% of the mold lines on a model, really just kind of up it a little bit, ups your quality. And then when you post in groups and forums for comments and criticisms, you won't get an overwhelming number of people telling you to do the same thing, which is this. Because for some reason, people hate these. And I have a suspicion. I suspect that people hate mold lines because they take the time to remove them themselves, and they feel like they shouldn't have to. And then they're upset because everybody else should have to remove them too. It's like drilling out the barrels of guns for models. Yes, it is a slight flaw in the model, yes, but if we were all to accept the flaw and just deal with mold lines as is, I think we would have a lot better of time, and we would all get a little bit more of our painting backlogs done. That's just my opinion. Obviously, it doesn't look as good, but still. There we go. And then that's it. I don't go crazy with it. I think I got most of them, most of the real bad. It's usually, once you've done a few of these, you really get the hang for where exactly they're going to be. Like, it's usually along weapons or up the sides of the model, things like that. And there we go. There he's done. Let's go on to the next one. I can see a little bit of a line here right down the feathers, but I know that if I go to remove it, excuse me, I'll probably end up removing most of the detail on the feather. So I'm just going to try and get some of these really bad spots here out of the way. And it doesn't even show up on the back, so I'm going to leave the rest of that. I'm trying to find the mold line on this heartbeat. There's one at the side here. And then right down the length of the weapon. It's another really, really common one. And it's really easy to get rid of this. It's a very, very thin line. And a sanding stick will get rid of it on most plastic models without any issue whatsoever. And then for the ones that won't, like metal models, you can use something like, I initially grabbed this file because I was using a file earlier today on a metal model. And I was like, oh, I'm removing material. I gotta get that file I was using earlier. All right, cool. Got it. And actually I believe that's not gonna pop right up. Okay, cool. And next we have, is this the harpy? That's the rock or something, I don't know. And that one's hidden in there, so we're gonna actually grab our X-Acto knife. And we're gonna get that mold line. I don't like using an X-Acto knife to remove these, because with this knife, this is very sharp, and I usually just end up dinging up my model. But that one back in there was really bad. And I'll switch back to the sander. And I couldn't quite get to it with the sanding stick here. But yeah, something like this right on top of her leg, that wouldn't look good in the end. And I don't know if you can tell, but as I'm scraping away these mold lines, there's actually, I'm going to be scraping away the primer that these come with. These actually come pre-primed, but for the most part, we're going to be going over them. They do come pre-primed, so ready to paint out of the box. If this is something that anyone that watches this is interested in, I've had no problems just painting them. I've never washed a model in my life, and I've had no problems just painting them. So you might see things about washing your models, which you should do if you feel so inclined. But know that if you don't, or if you forget, it's not the end of the world. It's hard to get a good color match on it, though. I think Jeremy over on Blackmagic Craft, he did a video on this, and I forget the paint that he said matches it pretty well. I forget what it was, but he's got a good video on beginning painting models. And he covers that. Okay, cool. I think now we're all good. Do you have one up your side here? And also just scrape with the back of your knife along the model. There we go. Cool. Cool. Oh, almost done. And then you are a big one. I'm sure you got some big old fat mold lines. Actually, not so much. It looks like when they assembled this guy, he came in multiple pieces. Or when they printed him, molded him, manufactured it. That's going to be the all-encompassing word that we're going to use there. When he was created, they did him in multiple pieces here. There we go. Neat. And we are almost done with this. Okay. I've had a lot of fun while prepping for this project, learning about all these crazy monsters in the monster manual I'd never heard of, and trying to find models of them, even just in the A. All right. Oh, I didn't even look at half this. One sec. So last week, when I did my Wednesday night stream, I had a certain peak number of people viewing, and I had 2 people that were there pretty much the rest of the night. Now it looks like I have 3. So whoever that new person is, or 2 new people, or 1 new person, or 0, or 3, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you hanging out with me. If you have any questions, or if you want to make any suggestions on what to paint, or what to work on, just shoot me a message in chat here, and I am more than happy. Otherwise, I will just continue to ramble to myself. I have no problem doing that. I pretty much was just doing this and talking myself through what I was doing for years. Little did I know that it was something that I might be able to involve other people on and get them to watch me do. Alright, cool. That's pretty good. I got one right there. Otherwise, if you don't feel like talking, then don't worry about it. Just sit back and enjoy it. We'll move on. Okay, that one's done. So that one's a different kind of model. So this one is a clear model. It's the air elemental. I don't think it's going to have any mold lines on it. I'll check it under a bright light later. But this one I saved for last because I'm sure it's going to be a little bit of a nightmare. It's got a lot of pieces. It's very big. And this is, for all of you Magic the Gathering fans out there, you might get a little bit of a geek out on this one. This is from the Nullzors WizKids Isperia partnership with Magic the Gathering. This is apparently a character card or both from there. It's sturdy. I will give it that. It is sturdy. Okay, that kind of blows my mind. So this gal, I believe it's actually a female character. This, and this is why I'm doing all my own bases. This person, model, monster thing, has the same size base provided by WizKids as this one, I believe. Yeah. Same size base. These 2 models. Same size base. So I'm probably going to do most of my own basing. And I'll keep these for side projects, screw ups, tests, so on and so forth. Okay. Actually, I'm looking at this here. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And let's see here. Okay, now you guys can see in a little bit closer on what I'm doing here. So yeah, this one has wings and such too, and we don't need this anymore. Okay, I don't need the metal file. I don't believe I will need that. Where did my, there it is, so my sanding stick. We're gonna go back to getting rid of some of these mold lines. Looks like there's a small one on top of each of these wings. I'm going to focus on getting just the major bulks of it. So I thought to myself, I'm going to paint every monster in the monster manual. I got to think of a good reason why. I couldn't think of a good reason why. So I just said, okay, well, I'm just going to start. And I'll think of a reason why. I had a million things in my head. I was like, I can give this to... When the whole project's done, I can give it to a local store. I can find one based out of the Ohio area here like one of those D&D after school things and donate all of the monsters to it, I could keep it as a really good display piece. Because I don't play enough D&D, or rather when I DM, I usually do the Theater of the Mind thing, because I usually play with just a couple of people, and we've kind of always played like that, and it's gaining popularity as you have things like D&D podcasts and stuff becoming more popular. So I was like, I don't really know why I'm doing this, but I knew I really, really wanted to do this. But I was going to have all these models. So if you have any ideas on what to do with all of these when this project is done, please let me know. As of now, my plan is to do one of those two things: either donate it to a local shop, keep it as a display, or find an after-school D&D group and donate it. So I haven't really decided which of those three I'm the most happy with. Obviously, ideally, I'd want to donate to the after-school thing. I just don't know how viable that is. It'd be really cool to find something like that. But also, that's a lot of pressure. If I say for now that it's just for me, and I'll leave it as a display in my house, I'll feel a lot less stressed about getting it done quickly and getting everything perfect. And then maybe later I can change my mind and donate it somewhere. So I already know that these wings are going to be an issue getting them in here. I can already just feel it. Yeah, so that doesn't want to go in there very nicely. So we're going to do some sanding. As you can see, that huge gap there. Not a fan. We'll do some actual sanding after we prime everything. We'll really grind these connectors down in. But right now, focus, we're doing our mold lines done. And then we're almost done here. And these sanding sticks are great. I got them when I was doing some Gundam models years ago. I ended up not using them a lot for that, because the issue with sanding something like a Gundam model for Gunpla is if you sand, you have to then touch up your paint. And then if you don't color match, like, it looks bad. So I ended up just doing the barest little amount of it on those. But then I started using them for hobbies, and oh my gosh, sanding sticks are so cool. They're flexible enough to get into these corners, but between the two sides, they're definitely strong enough to really just be your workhorses when it comes to these kind of tasks. But for something like that, where I'm going to sand away a significant chunk of this, I might use like a Dremel or something else. Let me see how this one fits. That one's even worse, actually. So yeah, these are going to require some finagling. I might actually just entirely cut this thing off, this little connector tab that goes in there, and just glue it on there. We shall see. Yeah, that might be what I do there. But we'll see. There we go. Just going to continue filing all this stuff down. This wing was a lot worse than the other wing, I'll be honest. Okay. And Asperia. If anyone knows anything about Asperia, you can tell me. Otherwise, I'm going to look up some stuff about this person. Sphinx thing from Magic the Gathering here. And I will start spouting off facts about Asperia. What's her name? Law Incarnate. So I play a decent amount of Magic the Gathering, but I've never really gotten into any of the characters and such. So we got Asperia. Law Incarnate. Let's go and see one of our... Oh, she's the Guild Master of Azurius, which is the white and blue Colors of Magic. She is, they got some quotes here. The higher the mind soars, the greater its understanding of the law. Okay, so I knew white was the color white in Magic was all about like order and such, but I didn't think about it being that regimented. Actually, I think I'm just gonna do this. No other way. Oh wow, I am not happy either way with that. Is this what I wanted to do? Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Okay. And then we'll just bring this down a little bit. Yeah, so I knew white was order, and blue was like a control color, but neat. What's next? I've dreamt of the future, Asperia. I've dreamt of the future, Asperia. Danger is on the horizon. You must heed my warning. Now wait, is that quote? Oh, that was the Sphinx of the Chimes talking to Asperia. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so who is Asperia? So she's definitely a Sphinx thing. The process of convincing Asperia to lead the guild took years. As we learned, she's the guild master of Azorius. As Sphinxes are very aloof beings who value solitude above all. As crime and chaos on Ravnica increased in the absence of the guild pact, I don't know what that is. And as its denizens more vocally demanded laws and their enforcement, Asperia decided her service was needed to trump her own preferences. Okay, cool. So, law and order. Sphinxes are. This Sphinx is all about the law and order. All right, cool. Well, you've got a lot of feathers for somebody that's all about law and order. You seem a little frilly, and I'm having trouble finding your mold lines. There we go. I found them. She was trying to hide them, but I'm not having it. Okay. And then, yeah, we got a really bad one right down the entirety of the back here. Okay. Yeah, so these mold lines, for anyone that's joined, we're just going through and we're prepping out some monsters for this week's upcoming Friday Night Monster painting session. A series in which I will be painting every single monster in the monster manual. And I'm just prepping these out so that this Friday I can really hit the ground running and actually focus my Friday painting sessions on just painting and not so much the hobby aspect. I want these episodes to be more about all of the hobby stuff, and then those episodes on Fridays to be just about painting the models themselves, because this is going to be a doozy of a task. So on Wednesdays, I'll probably do things like maybe make crazy bases for them, or displays, plinths, so on and so forth. Or I might do those on Fridays too, depending on where my time ends up. Like if I have some time and I don't want to start a new model, I might work on the base there. But right now we're going through and we're eliminating as many of these mold lines as we have the patience for, because that's usually how this goes. You can overwork this. This is definitely something that you can overdo with the mold lines. You can lose detail. You can accidentally grind away things that you wanted to keep. And you can spend so much time on it that you kind of lose out on a lot of the fun. So that mold line went all the way down there, and then it kind of stopped, but it looks like it actually went off to the side here. Sphinx butt. See, unlike these dwarves, Magic the Gathering and Nullzors gave their monsters pants. Games Workshop. Give your dwarves pants, man. Okay. I know this camera shakes a lot. My desk isn't really like a super sturdy desk, and I'm not going to get a new desk for something as little as camera shaking. I might get a tripod so that this camera can actually sit next to me here and look over my shoulder. It's probably going to be a better view for everybody as well. But for now, I do apologize. If it bothers anybody, just let me know and I can pay more attention to it for 5 minutes and then immediately forget. So, I'm here for you. Okay. Neat. There we go. So here are the models, my first little set. So I'm doing all my purchases like in batches and stuff. And this is the first set of ones that I'm going to be painting. I'll go over them more in detail on Friday, but just so you don't think that I'm just stopping at a random point, this is kind of like the first like little batch of ones that I have. And we're going to pull out the airbrush here. In the future, when I use my airbrush, I will be using a, what is it called? An airbrush, a spray booth. Right now, though, in order to plug my spray booth in, looking at my outlet situation, it would require unplugging my computer and killing the stream. So we're just going to prime like normal. That one's on me, fam. I have this giant power strip thing that's going to make my outlet situation a little bit better, but if I was going to show you guys here, right now we've got that going on between some monitors, my airbrush, my computer, and my work computer, because I'm working from home right now. It's just kind of all over the place, so we're going to fix that. And I just kind of, when I picked that up just now, I realized I can take you guys on journeys as long as they're no longer than this USB cable. So we might go on a trip someday. But for now, we're going to stay right here, and I'm going to remove this mat, my nice new beautiful cutting mat. I'm going to get these dwarves out of the line of fire because I don't need them here when I'm spraying paint. So we're going to start with that, actually. Because especially if you're going to spray paint around models, don't put them directly behind where you're spraying, and don't spray primer. Like the tiniest amount of beige that oversprays a little bit, probably wouldn't notice on these dwarves. But if I'm spraying black primer everywhere for any amount of time, you'll definitely notice. So these guys, let's just throw everything over here behind me. I was pretty good last week about cleaning all this up. And we'll get this out of here. Actually, I'm gonna need these. So, sorry, Tally, you are not getting painted tonight. It's Tally the Paladin, one of my players in my D&D campaigns character. And we're just gonna mount these guys up and get them all ready to go. Adventures. I am being told adventures must happen, and they will. So fun fact, I can't actually use my phone to go over to the other half of my studio setup until I have a certain number of subscribers, which was an odd thing, but it kind of makes sense. It prevents anyone from just hopping onto YouTube, creating an account, and just mobily uploading stuff. I'm a little bit upset. I wish they set the bar a little bit lower, but I have to have 1,000 subscribers, and essentially you have to be able to monetize your channel in order to take video from your phone. An odd policy. I think, and I'm sure there's reasonings for it that I don't know, so I'm not going to be like, I think it's unfair. I think it's perfectly fair. I just don't understand why. Probably having something to do with you need a certain amount of a following for them to like dedicate their resources towards it. But a little disappointing. So for now, unless I'm going to move my entire big ass computer and monitors and cameras all the way over to the other side of, oh, this is tough. This is really giving my head a spin. The other side of my basement where you can see like there's a whole another workstation over there. For now, you guys are stuck over here with me, my little corner. And the reason I keep looking right here is because this is my screen where I have like my YouTube stuff open, and over there is actually where I am seeing live what I'm doing. If I were to use the YouTube app to do it, I would see like a 30-second delay between everything that I do and the channel, and I believe that would cause me just to, as a human, lag out. So we're going to try and prevent that. And we're going to mount up this next model. Okay. Now you are going to be a little bit of a nightmare, and I already know that about you. And I had a plan for you, and I forgot it. So we'll figure it out. Is this my plan? I feel like I set this aside thinking that this would be enough of a plan for me to get away with. But that's not going to balance like that. I mean, it balances. I could spray it. That works. Yeah, okay. No, oh wait, no. Okay, so if I just like put that right there. Yeah. I like that. I'm gonna get some blue tack though, because the moment I do anything with this, it's just gonna immediately fall out. I love this poster tack. This poster tack is my friend. Oh wow, that's still like 4 times as much as I need. There we go. If I take half away, now I only have twice as much as I need. And I mean, let's all be honest. We can shove 2 times more than we should into there, and no one's gonna say anything. There we go, cool. That's not very secure, but I'll be honest with you guys. If it's gonna take any more effort than I've just put into it, I'll just pick it up with the glove and prime it in 2 different sits. Okay, and then these I'll just be able to hold. Okay. We're just gonna start priming stuff. I'm gonna grab a glove, I'm gonna grab stuff, and we're gonna prime models. We're gonna put them on the rotating Lazy Susan and spray them with some fucking paint. All right, cool. Let's get this thing cleared off. You gotta stay organized, otherwise my desk becomes a giant nightmare of a place. Okay, so we're gonna get rid of this, because this is nice and pretty. I have a messier one of these actually over there. I also have a smaller, messy one of these right here. I believe I brought this out last week when I was doing some airbrushing. I don't know which side is prettier. Oh, this side's prettier. This is the pretty side. Oh wow, that's a little nightmarish. So we're gonna stay here. We're just gonna look at it. You can even see where it's warping and stuff. Give me 1 second. I'm actually gonna go get my gonna go get some stuff. So normally, last week I did this stream on a Wednesday, and because I did it on Wednesday, I had to work the next day. So I cut the stream off a lot earlier than I would have normally. So And then, as like a silly goose, before I uploaded the video, I got very stressed and I actually ended up staying up until like 6 a.m. rewatching the entirety of the stream once and then almost once again in its entirety. So I dedicated like 6 hours to the stream. So today what I figured is I'm just going to spend 4 or 5 hours actually just doing my thing right now and move on from there. Which is awesome because I'll get a lot more done. But it also means that I won't be able to quality check myself and go through and make sure I didn't say anything terrible. Because as I mentioned, I have a little bit of ADHD. I have a lot of ADHD, to be honest. And I just kind of ramble. And I do find myself oftentimes just rambling into a sentence that I either don't mean, that's way too big, or just kind of continually free word associating until I realize I've said something inappropriate or incredibly offensive. And if I do, I would like a couple of my people that are in the chat right now, as friends of mine, to please let me know and just give me a, hey, at this time you said something that you probably don't want to put in your permanent video, because I'm uploading these again immediately after. I would really appreciate that. I've never really been on camera. The first time I was on camera was when I was doing team meetings. What is this? Oh, this is my one-to-one. Team meetings for work recently, as we shifted to working from home. All right. So please let me know. Okay, so we're gonna start with base coating everything black. So let's see if I can get a cool way to. And I want to keep this camera back. I'm gonna zoom it out a little bit. It's I'm kind of kicking myself a little bit about not having my spray booth set up. But two things: one, it would be very, very loud, and two, I don't like the idea of just filling the air with all of this. Okay, configure video. Let's see what it looks like. Zoom. Let's turn that down. Okay. Okay, cool. So here you'll be able to see everything. Yes, please save my changes. And we're just gonna zip here a little bit. And this thing's really cool. It's just it came with I think this one came with my air booth, and the other one I bought separate. And I think last time I did my airbrush, I didn't really talk too much about it. I just kind of did it. It was towards the end of the day, and I was a little bit out of it. But now I'm full of energy. So this is surface primer. I don't know if I talked too much about primer in my last live stream, but I'm gonna probably just get into the habit of saying the same thing over and over and again. Actually, before I start, let me see if my noise suppression is gonna pick up my airbrush. It's picking up somebody's footsteps in my house. That's not so bad. I might turn that up a little bit, but we'll see. So primer, I'm just gonna probably always talk about this. It's what allows you to paint on something in a singular coat without having to do multiple coats. And primer and airbrush cleaner is so important that I actually have this set up as my evening alarm to scan the barcode on my airbrush cleaner, which is really cool. So this is Vallejo Surface Primer, black. I'm probably going to use the last of this today, which I'm really sad about. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to use this stuff instead. This is it's made by Badger. It is okay. Steno Res primers black. So I think I got something. Yeah, a little bit of something. It's a new primer for me, so we'll see how it goes, which is perfect. This isn't like super important stuff that I'm starting off with. Take this off. Yep, there's that. It appears to be pretty thin, about the same as the Vallejo, which is a good first sign. Now the Vallejo primer that I use is very, very matte in its finish, which is really, really cool. Uh-oh. Yeah, okay, we're good, we're good, we're good. No, I knew it. I immediately said we're good, and then I immediately wiped my face. Okay, so it looks like it's got very good adhesion, if my face is any indication here right off the bat. You know what? I like it. It's just going to stay. I'm not going to scrub my face here on camera. We're going to shake it up a lot. I don't hear an agitator in there. If you hear like one of this Vallejo bottle, as I shake it, it's got these little agitating balls in there that break up the paint and prevent your paint from clotting and separating. And that's these. These are just metal. And you'll see a lot of people say not to use metal ones, or like only use metal ones, or they'll rust inside your paint and ruin your paint. I hope that doesn't happen. I haven't been using these long enough to say one way or another. But since this is a really big bottle, I'm just going to throw like 3 in there. What that does is when I shake it now, yeah, I'm going to shake it, and then those 3 balls in there are going to knock around and catch any of the primer that is settling. Phenomenal purchase. I think I actually have that in almost every single one of my paint bottles now. So when you hear me shake these bottles, you can actually hear a little agitator in there. Otherwise, oh, cool. So this is what I'm talking about. See how it gets, those are all the different layers of paint. And on the bottom, there's all your pigment. Now if I shake it, you can hear that the ball is actually stuck there in the bottom with all that pigment. So as we shake it more, eventually we're gonna hit that point of sweet, sweet bliss. And do I have an agitator in this? There it is. Okay. So you can see how long that took just to get it like loose. And this is great. I'm glad that I don't have a big enough following that doing this is gonna cause me any. But now look at that. See that? Beautiful monocolor. Awesome. So that's what I'm talking about when I say agitators. Really great. Okay. No more stalling. We're gonna go ahead and start priming up some of these models. Airbrush medium. Again, Army Painter, I believe. Yeah, the Army Painter War Paints airbrush medium. It's really, really great. And I'm not gonna mix this in the cup. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a little cup thingy here. We're gonna grab this because we're gonna be priming a number of models. I'm gonna mix it outside of the cup. We're gonna go about a 1-to-1 of this. Should do a little bit more, but we'll see. Do I have anything else? Before I start this, I want to make sure that there isn't anything else standing right next to me that I want to prime. Just because priming isn't something that I do very often. I just want to make sure. Yes, there is one small thing. That. Get my music back in. So this is this is nothing to do with what we're doing. This might be next week's project. This is a laser woodcut set that is like a little tavern bar scene. I love the look of the laser wood cut. It smells amazing. It looks really pretty, but I really want to paint it. So I'm probably going to paint it. We'll prime that if we have any leftover primer here. I don't like to waste it. And, well, no, we won't just prime it if we have some left over. We're just going to knock it out here because I don't necessarily enjoy this stage. It's kind of like the one stage where you can really, really gunk things up. So, new primer. Okay, so it's pretty, it looks like it's mixing pretty well with the airbrush thinner there, which is nice, which is good. We're gonna grab one of our shittier brushes here. shittier brushes, but just one of our brushes that we don't necessarily care about as much. Because we're just going to mix this up now. There we go. Again, we got about a 1-to-1 mixture of Army Painter, airbrush, medium, and that's not enough water. It's not nearly enough. We're gonna and Badger black primer. I don't know if they have multiple lines that include black primer, so I will clarify this is the Stin Ilres Primers Black. Okay, and I would just show you the label, but look at that. That's how they chose to design the font. And the only reason I could read that immediately was because over here, the place that I bought it from, Yada Quest over here in the Ohio area, put their own label on it. Okay, cool. Cool. Which, by the way, if you're a local gamer in this area, Yada Quest, phenomenal store. In no way, shape, or form helped me out at all with making any of this, but I did buy all my models there, and it's really, really easy. I could pick them all out online, and I just asked for them to. They have an actual stock, so if you ever go to a store and you're like, I know what I want, but I don't want to look for it, they have an online inventory, which is the first time I've ever seen a hobby store have one of those, and oh boy, I'm now spoiled. Okay, so we're gonna put some of this primer in there. And I absolutely loved it. I just put way too much in there, which is fine. I just got to be careful, and I'm going to put the lid on. Normally I leave this lid off, but oh man, that's very full. We're just going to go ahead and put that on there. And then we're going to test it out just on our little piece of paper. Put it over there. Okay, yeah, there we go. For me, personally, I don't really care if it's like solid black right away. As I see that it's very almost grayish, but I see that it's building very nicely to a black. It's coming right out of the airbrush very smoothly. And looking at the color and such, it's probably because I over-thinned it. So I'm good to go. We're gonna go ahead and set this right here. And we're gonna start priming these up. Kind of covering everything. I see this one here has one of these like invisible clear effects, and I might be able to pop this bird out of there, but I think I have a better idea when we go to paint this. I'm gonna cover it in rocks or a texture paste, or like one of the crackle pastes by Games Workshop, and I will, because this bird creature lives in the mountains, I'll kind of give it more of a mountain atmosphere. And as we go here, I'll see if I can get you guys a good view of what I'm actually saying. So here's the model. Oh geez. So we're just kind of go back and forth with these light passes. Just darken everything up. As you can see, we're starting to get darker. We're going to build up that color. Just trying to get as solid of a black as we can. And this will take a couple of passes. Normally, if you're in a rush or something, you can just grab a rattle can. But I like using the airbrush. You don't have to go outside at all. You don't have to worry about overspraying as much. Like, you definitely can, but this is a lot thinner than one of those bottles up there of the Army miniature specifically designed primers. But I'm actually going to bring this over here so I'm having trouble seeing what I'm doing. Okay. As you can see now, we're starting to get a little bit closer to our black. And I'm loving this primer, okay. Just trying to make sure we get all the nooks and crannies. Get the back of his weapon there. Get right up there on his tail feathers and his wingtips. His base. And yes, it is possible to overdo it on this stage, especially even with an airbrush, but I mean, you'd have to really not be paying attention to what you're doing to over prime with an airbrush and actually genuinely lose detail, to be honest. So I've never had an issue with it. I think there's been an issue with a couple of the things that have 3D printed, but it's kind of had shitty detail to begin with because I'm not very great at 3D printing yet. But here we go. Now we have this guy. It looks like that. He's all black. So yeah, really, really cool. Digging him so far. It looks like there's a couple of spots here on the camera. I wonder if again, I'm not big on lighting in camera. If I turn off the ring light on the secondary camera, I wonder if that is actually... No, it just makes it almost impossible to see. Okay, so we're going to turn that back on. Okay, there we go. But maybe a little bit less intense. So there is our Ayakara, or whatever it is. There we go. And it looks like the owner of the Dwarf Army has joined the live stream. Hello, sir, Pie Master. He is addressing the Dwarf Army. Part of the reason why he had me paint my Fire Slayers is he gets distracted easy. I do too, man. Which is why it took me almost 2 years to get the whole thing back and done to you. Just like, yes, a lot of stuff happened in between, but yes, I understand getting distracted very easily. And please correct me if I'm wrong in remembering any of the reasons why I have your entire Fire Slayers army. It has been so long that some of it might have gone through the old Ricky noggin here. Actually, there's an effect I might actually want to... Ooh, don't want to knock that over. I think I might be able to pull this off. It came right off, as did part of his hand. That's not going to go back on. So we're going to have to glue that on later. But the spell effect is removed, and we will prime the model. Okay. It's okay. It's okay. There we go. Just broad strokes. Sweeping passes. So what's cool about an airbrush is actually what it's doing. So when I press down this button, I am initiating an airflow. And then when I pull back on this little trigger, that airflow, that pulls back a needle that's actually inside there, and it releases paint into the airflow. And the combination of those, you can control the amount of paint that's going out at any given point in time. And when it aerosolizes in there, pretty much it's just drying as it's hitting the model, or even before, allowing you to get these really quick and easy, nice base coats done on models. Focus on me. No? I see makeup YouTubers do this. So I wonder if this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to hold it right there and then go like that. There we go. Cool. So there we go. We have our black done. I'll bring up this guy too now. I think I was trying to do this the last time and I forgot that this is how you do this. And there is our bird. Lots of fun. Okay. Let's move on to the next thing, which is the harpy. And it looks like we have a little fuzzy. Fuzzy alert. Grab our tweezers here. I don't know what that is. Oh, this is part of the mold line that we were getting off. So that was the just a little bit of the excess. Not the mold line itself, but the primer that was on top of the mold line. go. So we're having a little bit of sputtering issues with our airbrush here, which is fine. We'll be able to work through this. Looks like we had a little bit of a clog, which is perfectly normal. And it just kind of all released. And we got a bunch of primer out all at once, but that's fine. This is all stuff to be expected when you're using an airbrush, especially. I've only been using an airbrush for about a year or so it happens. Hopefully we'll be able to get all this stuff done before the stream. Not that I don't think you all would find it super fun to watch me disassemble and clean my airbrush, but I'd probably just have to switch to doing something else if that were to happen. Because it usually involves me swearing a little bit and being stressed that I'm going to break the needle. Alright, so then there's our harpy. There we go. And there she is. And John is, Pie Master is very happy with the way his Dwarf Fire Slayer army looks, which is great. I'm very happy about that. He was the first person that actually thought that my miniature painting was good enough to ask me to do something for him. So thank you, John. Without you, sir, I would have spent thousands less in this hobby, and I wouldn't be starting my own business and stuff with it. So thank you very much. You were an inspiration to me in many ways with this whole venture. Okay, so now we're going to do these wings. We're going to get the black base coat in. Yeah, so all in all, I'm pretty happy with this Badger primer. I'm having a little bit of issues with the coating on it, but I think honestly this is going to be more of a user error thing. I either over or under thin this, or I need to clean out my airbrush. All in all, this primer is pretty phenomenal. It works pretty much just exactly like the equivalent Vallejo airbrush primer, or the Vallejo works the exact same as this. I don't know which came first. But all in all, if you're in a situation like I am, like I was when I went to the store and they didn't have the Vallejo black primer and you need a black primer, this is a perfectly acceptable substitution. Alright, so there's one of our wings done. And then we're going to grab the other one here. So when I use the airbrush here, for anyone that's actually watching my channel for hobby tips and tricks and to get better, first off, I'm sorry, but second off, I will do my best to explain what I'm doing, why. What I'm doing is I am allowing my airbrush to always blow air at all times. It was a small change that I made, and I have had about 60%, maybe even higher percent less issues with clogging or sputtering, splattering of my paint. So pretty much just all the time air is blowing through the airbrush, and then that way when I pull the trigger, it's the only thing that's actually changing is the paint. And what you saw there, so I'm using the paint, and then when I'm done using the paint, I allow the air to pass through for just a second or two longer. It has made my life so much easier. I have had a lot less issues with, again, any kind of clogging, anything like that. And I would say that if you're having issues with an airbrush and you're having to clean it out almost every single time you use it, like I was, you're frustrated and you're like, this is horse crap, but I maybe get a crappy cheap one. This is pretty much the cheapest airbrush you can buy right now, and one of the cheaper. This is the Masters airbrush compressor kit, and these are just the airbrushes that came free with it. So don't go buy yourself a fancy one. And for anyone that's on the fence about using an airbrush, just go do it. Don't buy yourself whatever that next kit is. Put that money away. Maybe 2 kits, depending on what game you're into. Might be the next couple of kits. Do yourself a favor and just pick one up if you're interested in it. If you end up not liking it for whatever reason or it doesn't work for you, there are tons of online communities where someone will pay basically MSRP for you to sell it back to them, and you can resell it. But yeah, just do it. I've had a lot of fun with mine and a couple of quick videos, and I was off to the races having a ton of fun. And blowing through work. I mean, I wasn't able to do a lot of the stuff that I've been doing now a year ago because I just didn't have the skills, and getting an airbrush, I'm not saying it magically cranked my skills up to 11, of course not. But getting that kind of opened me up to the possibility of changing the way that I was painting models, and sometimes in pretty major ways. I'm just going to set this down here. And that was one of the major ways, was the airbrush itself. And so then I started looking at other techniques, like paying more attention to where lighting was on the model, because I was using an airbrush to do a zenithal highlight. And then I started, even when I wasn't using an airbrush to apply that effect, I started looking at it on just everything that I was painting in general, and the painting got better. So this is all leading up to the fact that all your skills are kind of leading and bleeding into each other. And whenever you feel like you're kind of stalling out on that plateau, just try and change something. Change even if it's as simple as even if it's as simple as change what kind of brush you're using, or what paints you use. I know some people are really limited in what their army color scheme is, and I get that. It's got to be a specific kind of blue, or you have a color scheme for your army, and you want everything to match to a degree, but change what color you do the details on, or your contrasting things. Maybe use a different color of trim on Space Marine is a bad example, but change up the way you do your gun. Change up the way you paint the gun itself, and you'll find yourself trying new things, and that's kind of what it's all about. I think I got all of this guy. No. How we're looking on primer. I made way too much primer. I'm not going to push my luck with trying to do this thing tonight, I don't think so. Because I can feel my airbrush fighting me. It wants me to clean it out very, very thoroughly and remove the needle and everything, which I will do tonight after the stream. But I want to get this done. I really want to get this done before I do that. Okay. Take another sip of this. Pie Master, you're more than welcome, sir, and it is great quality. Thank you very much. I appreciate that again. If you stay tuned, I'm going to tease my next week's project here. and it involves your army. So I'm not trying to say that to bribe you. I'm not going to drop everything immediately and talk to people about next week's Wednesday project because I want to get this done. I promise. I'll tell you about it later over Discord or something, or another day. I promise. Or I'll just send you the footage. You can see there we're starting to lose steam. All right, here we go. Pick this up. I am very excited for this D&D Monster Manual painting challenge I've given myself. This is going to be a ton of fun. I'm already looking at a ton of models that I would never have painted, and I've never painted anything even remotely close to it. And I'm really looking forward to the challenges that I'm going to face here. Like this, I've never painted anything like this. I'm really excited. The one complaint I think I would say I consistently have with the Nullzors line and the Wizards of the Coast, I guess by extension in general, because I think they use the same manufacturer, is these bases. Not just the bases that they come with, those little platforms, but this rock thing. I would give anything to not have them pre-attached, which I understand whether or not, but when you're painting, when you're providing unpainted models, the assumption is that you are selling a hobby product, and to sell a product that requires painting, but drawing the line that you can't ask somebody to glue the model to a secondary object here or have it be disassemblable, kind of is a little bit of an oversight in my mind, in my head. Okay, I think we're almost done. Like this, I would love to disconnect her and really be able to get all of the underside of her, which I know I can. I've done it on plenty of models, but I'm trying to set a good precedent for this entire project that I don't want to spend like every iota of effort making everything a display piece. To be clear, I'm not going to phone anything in, but that's a lot of work, and then I could accidentally ruin models, which if it's a one-off, no big deal. But if I end up like breaking a model once a letter even, and having to buy another one, it's gonna add up real quick. Always. Broken models laying around. That'll work. That's fine. Alright, cool. So we got all of the models here primed in black. Ta-da! And now we're going to go through. We're going to add our zenithal highlighting, just so we can see where our lights and shadows are, so on and so forth. Okay. So the first thing we do, I'm going to empty out our airbrush here. Oh boy, that lid's a little bit dirty. I'm really glad I put on that lid, judging by the state of it, actually. That would have been bad. So this can go over here. And this is just a Q-tip and some water. I'm actually going to clean this lid off a little bit. Actually, these again, I think I mentioned last week, these are not Q-tips. I don't know if Q-tips can't be used for this, but I use basically plumber's Q-tips. I found them at Home Depot, not Home Depot, at Meijer, which is the equivalent of like a Walmart. So I noticed that if anything, they're a little bit less fuzzy. So like the fuzzies don't have as big of a tendency to peel off into things. They seem a little bit more condensed and more of a tight cotton tip. So I like them for that, so that I'm not constantly accidentally tearing off pieces of them and finding them later. Oh wow, that's dark. All right. But now we're just using our bottle here, spraying out the inside of this. Where's my light? There we go. Just trying to make sure we get as much of the paint on as possible. And next, we're going to do something called back channeling, which is where you put a little bit of your cleaning fluid, whatever it is. In this case, because I'm starting the cleaning process, it's just going to be like a little bit of water. You cover up the tip of your airbrush, and then, I don't know if you'll be able to see this. You can see that, you can hear the bubbles, and now you can see them, yeah. The bubbles coming out the top. And what I'm doing is I'm telling the airbrush, hey, blow whatever's in my cup through my airbrush when I pull back on the trigger, but it can't, so it just makes bubbles. That actually looks pretty clean. So we'll move on to the next one. And cleaning out again. Just cleaning out an airbrush takes some time. And I'm not fully cleaning it. I'm not going to disassemble it. I'm not going to Q-tip the needle or anything, because we actually need it here for 1 minute more. But I tell you what I am going to do is I'm going to grab one of these. I'm going to grab my airbrush cleaner. And I'm going to clean my needle off. I just looked at it and it's a little gunked up. So again, being careful, as it is a needle. And you can break it very easily. Just going to do that. I'm going to look away. I'm going to blow a little bit of air through there. Get some bubbles. And then there you go. See that? It's just full of bubbles. And we can just take it and zoop. Now my hand is covered in bubble juice. All right. It's time to get serious, guys. All right, cool. So now we have eliminated all of the black primer out of our airbrush. Neat. Throw in that cup. And my desk is getting a little bit crowded, but that's fine. Airbrushing will kind of tend to do that, because you have all these bottles of different substances, and thinners, and cleaners. But we're gonna move this over there. And to actually do our zenithal highlight, we need that still. We don't need our black primer. So I wave back and forth between using just white primer or using white ink. I tend to prefer the ink, but I've been using the primer on bigger things and having a lot of luck with it, especially things that aren't necessarily sealed up like miniatures are. Think things like XPS foam projects, terrain projects. I've been using the primer instead of white ink, because then I have to worry a little bit less about the texture. I mean, not the texture, the consistency of it, thinness of it. And I'll show you what I mean here in a sec. So you saw with the primer that we were really able to control how thick our paint was, especially with this airbrush medium. We were able to thin it. It started thick, and we thinned it down to the point that we wanted it, which is what we would do if we were going to use like the white primer. But with an acrylic ink like this, it is pretty much already as thin as you could ever possibly want it. I added just a tad bit of thinner just to kind of help it flow through the airbrush, but it's an ink, so you can't really thicken it up a little bit. So you have to either move back or decrease your air pressure. So I tend to just kind of do whatever works, or I'll like throw this in there and then I'll add some primer. All right, so we're gonna throw a little bit of airbrush medium in there, and just a bunch of dots of this. We're doing a bunch of things, so I'll use a bunch of this. There we go. That was way more than I needed. That's fine. From there, we're gonna add a new paper towel. And ooh, I don't think I quite cleared out all of the black paint, but it looks like we're actually good. There we go. Getting a nice white now. Okay. Neat. Okay, so now we're gonna arbitrarily decide the sun's above our head, and we're gonna start adding zenithal prime to these. Not a zenithal prime, a zenithal highlight. So we're gonna hit it from above, so we'll get the top of these wings, maybe a little bit of his front. And I tend to overdo it like this. I tend to overdo it when I'm doing these highlights, which 100% personal preference. I personally tend to overdo it because I'm not a huge fan of building up a lot of these colors sometimes, especially on black. And I find that just a little bit of gray on the top portions will really help me get a good base coat when it comes time to actually paint. But again, I'm trying to make sure that we're hitting the top more than the bottom. And there we go. So we have this, and now we look like that. So you can see at the top here, tops of all of his pieces, he has a lot more color. And then on the bottom, if we were to look at him from the bottom, we have a lot less. And then looking at his wings, here at the top, and then from here at the bottom. And you can see the color change. Where is my phone? Oh, I apologize. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next one. There we go, just getting the wing. Actually, it looks like I got a lot of wings this week, so wings are definitely going to be a thing that I get good at painting. And there we go. And the next one. I'm just gonna knock all of these out here real quick, and then I'll give you guys a look at them all here when we're done. Alrighty, and then you, tentacle monster, you are next. So you get mounted like that. So here's up above. Alright, there we go. I have a feeling that I'm going to struggle a lot with the skin on him, so I'm really going to hit this guy extra hard when it comes to getting those variations built into our base coat here. Boom, done. Go ahead and grab this ever so gently. Set it off to the side. All right. And then you, ma'am, are the next. Top to the armor and the tail. Right here above. Definitely want these areas. Heels here. Those just, again, they just need to be lighter than the bottoms of the heels. feathers. And here is that. So as you can see here, we've just added a little bit of gray and a little bit of white, nothing crazy. I might go in again with a white primer on this one just because of how big the model is, but we'll have to see. Because this is not a 100%. This is exactly where our lights are. And this is exactly where our highlights are. I'm just kind of gonna make it easier for myself when I go to actually base coat and paint this model to make it look the way I want to. So wings, this is the top. Wings are always easy. And boom, done. On the inside, just a little bit less, but the same thing. Without taking tips. And then boom, you have a wing. Not quite as smooth as this. There we go. A little bit more. Back of your head. Look right, there we go. Alrighty. There we go. Next one. Same thing, focusing on the top. And then boom, there's our wing. Oh, there's our wing. Lots of fun painting all this up. Okay, so alrighty. So we've primed all of our models. That's so exciting. So this Friday, Monster Manual Madness Fridays, I gotta figure out a name for the series. I will be painting up one or two of these, and I will continue to work. But for now, actually, I'm thinking about maybe calling it a night. If only because I do have a couple of my own personal projects that I need to work on because they are gifts for people that I know. I don't want them to see them. And as we all know, there's only a certain number of hobby hours in the day. So I might need to work on a little bit of those tonight, but keep your eye out and onto the channel. Oh, and I'm definitely having some audio issues. Thank you to my wonderful wife who's been watching the stream live. I need to figure out a audio setup because currently I think I'm using that camera for the audio when I think maybe last week I used either my headset or this camera. It seems like the Logitech 920 doesn't quite have as good of a microphone on it. So I found myself speaking a little bit louder throughout the course of the evening, which is probably why I had the dry throat issues earlier. And I started using a streaming software. So I have a little bit of kinks to work out, and I appreciate everyone that's sticking with me while I work these out. I hope that every time I stream, it gets just like a little bit better. I think I might have set my my filter on the, what do you call it, the decibel suppression a little bit high, because when I set it up, our house fan was running and it was making it difficult to cancel out the house fan. But anyway, that's a lot of personal information. I'm sorry. But I'm gonna definitely do some more work on none of this stuff, but I'm gonna be working on some stuff that's gonna be posted up as the normal videos onto the YouTube channel. In the meantime, if you want to check out some of the other stuff, I have the Book Nook crafting time lapse video, as well as the diorama of the Karate Kid. That was a lot of fun. If you're a fan of video games, you're definitely gonna love the next one that I put out. No, you're gonna like either the next one that I finish up or the one after that. It depends on which one of these two projects I get done first and edit it all down. But I am going to go work on some of those tonight, and I really, again, I appreciate everyone staying, and please let me know what I can do to make it better, to make it more interactive. If there's topics that I'm hitting a little bit too hard for some of you, because even if you're not into painting and you've just heard me discuss it too many times, please just shoot me a message and be like, hey, we get it. I don't want to hear it again. Please let me know. Until then, I hope you all have a phenomenal rest of your day and evening. And again, reach out. Let me know what you think I should do on my Wednesdays or my Fridays. And thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm going to click the end stream button now, I believe. Yes, your stream will stop immediately and you will no longer be live. Bye, everybody.